Hello world. Today I'm going to continue series on Blender basics. And today I'm going to talk about modifiers, which are right here. I gotta tell you though that I don't know all of them. Actually, I don't know most of them. And today I'm going to talk only about those which I know their functions, what they do. So let's start it. Those on the left, I actually have no idea what they do. Probably I gotta Google it, but I don't even know what they do. And on the generate modifier, let's start with the array modifier. Okay, the array modifier, what it does, it's I have to turn on the wireframe temporarily. It just creates a bunch of copies of the object. Probably is going to be more visible if I use Suzanne, the monkey. If I use array modifier, it generates a bunch of Suzanne. And what is good about this modifier, if you edited one object, for example like this, all others instantly being modified at the same time. It's a good and interesting thing. Also, well, where can you use this modifier and what kind of functions it has within it? Right now there is a relative offset and fixed count of the objects. You can click on a constant offset and give it, or just a type whatever offset you need, and you get exact distance which you need. And you can change the axles and create a different axis. But most important, most useful thing I think in a array modifier is a combination of using it with curve. For that you have to just add curve, Bezier curve. It's right here, it's added, and just make it bigger, for example, just to show you. Okay. I think this should be enough. If you combine array modifier and curve, you can get something like this. And also pay attention, it's changing the object's proportions, because before that it was just ideal cube. And when you apply the curve modifier, it's you see it's become rectangular, and not even completely rectangular, but it's changing its geometry. So be careful when you're using it. This could be changed, I think, with positioning, correct positioning. We have to position it right here, yeah. If a curve and object positions are matching, there is not much deformations on a geometry. So very same thing we can use our Suzanne geometry. This is most useful thing, I think, with the array modifier. And again, because the positions doesn't match, it's completely screw up the geometry. And if you match positions of the curve and geometry, it's still, there are deformations, but not that visible, I think. In my opinion. Okay, that was a array modifier. Okay, let's delete all of them. What is next? Bevel, also very useful thing. Bevel, by default it's a 0.1 meter, means 10 centimeters, and you can add segments and make cube look really good with the soft edges. And also cool thing about Bevel, it's you can edit object with this modifier applied, not applied, how to say that correctly, with this modifier turned on, and you get instantly the geometry with the soft edges. But it could be achieved only on a relatively simple geometry. Complex geometry, and also you have to pay attention. Let me turn on wireframes for a second. It's add bevels to all edges, to all polygons. You see how here it's added 4 edges, and if we try to dissolve it, well, we can actually get, yeah, the results are actually good, I think. Actually, it's not that bad at all. But you can get the stretches like this on, or some weird geometry, so be careful and pay attention to it. Yeah. When geometry looks like this without bevel, when bevel turned off, and well, very simple object, and if you turn it on, some areas could look like this, and it might cause some issues, not desirable issues with your geometry objects you're modeling currently. Maybe we can fix it by joining these 2 vertices. Yeah. Well, I think you got an idea how it works. There are other things here which I don't really know what they do. Profile. Oh, okay, I see. Profile actually messing up the corners so it has to stay on a 0.1. Okay, well, you have to get through. I want to show you today also how to learn things. I was learning always the way I just, new software, I install it and I start using it even without looking at to the manual. Just push all the buttons and to see what happens. Basically, same thing I'm doing right now, because I'm using very few. Oh wow! On the 2.8 they added custom profile. This is great, actually. Okay, I didn't know that. 2.82 actually, a version of the Blender. And here we can draw our own profile. But again, it's messing up the angles. So you always have to there is no good automatization with these things. So pay attention and be careful when you use things like that. Okay. Well, what is next? Modifier Boolean. Boolean modifier, what it does, I think it would be better if we use Suzanne again. Let's add Suzanne to the scene. And in order to use correctly Boolean modifier, you need several objects, at least two. So you adding you have your own geometry, and you have to have object for a geometry piece for a Boolean, and I'm going to show you what it does. Yeah, most of the people who know computer graphics, they know what they do, but this is Blender basics, and this is for very beginners, like who started learning Blender like yesterday. For newbies. Okay, we added Boolean modifier, and now we have to add object. And what it does, it's not really visible. It's only visible if you hide Boolean modifier. Just press H to hide it, and it's messed it up also, because Boolean modifier doesn't work properly on a complex geometry. So you also have to be careful. Yeah, it cut the segment out of it, but it didn't cut it the way it's supposed to. And let me restart this thing with another just cube. Let's say we have two cubes. It works relatively good only on a simple geometry. That is what's supposed to do. Okay, and I always do when I use Boolean, I always create new collection and call it Boolean collection, and add empty to, not to the Boolean, to the scene collection, and then attach the Boolean cube to parent Boolean cube to the empty, and now I move actual Boolean geometry to that Boolean collection layer, and now we can hide it. But what's left, actual empty hook, which controls the Boolean object. You see, because this cube parented to empty, when I move empty, it's moving with the cube moving with this empty, and after we hide it in the collection, it's still moving. And that's what Boolean is supposed to do. And as I told you, and as I was trying to show in a previous thing, it doesn't work very well on a complex geometry yet. So if we open the Suzanne and add Boolean modifier to it, and reuse this cube for a Boolean, we can hide it. At some areas it works, you see, but at some areas it just cut it, how to say it, just making a hole in geometry, and it's probably not the results you expect from a Boolean. This is correct working of the Boolean, this is incorrect. It is because of the complex geometry, and maybe Suzanne is not a solid object, probably because of the eyes. Are eyes separate objects? Yeah. If Suzanne was had a geometry with a closed solid object like this, it's supposed to work. No, I said that doesn't work correctly still. But my way to fix it is to keep objects solid. So that's what's Boolean for. Okay, and there is not only this option, there is an option on the operation. It's an intersect. What it does, it's cut out the actual cube from Suzanne geometry. Well, it's basically inverse the Boolean operation. And union, what it does, it's make Suzanne geometry and cube geometry as a one object. And if we apply Boolean modifier and try to edit it, you see how this Suzanne geometry and cube, now it's a one object, one whole piece. So that was a Boolean modifier. Okay, what is next? The build modifier, I didn't really use it, and I think it would be better to show it on again on the Suzanne. Build modifier, I think, if I remember correctly, it works with animation. So if we press space, to animate it, you see, when animation started, it's kind of building it from nothingness to existence, polygon by polygon. And there is an option to randomize it and maybe increase speed, because now length is 100 frames. Let's make it 10. Make it now it's supposed to be much faster. Okay. See, that's a cool thing. I think it could be used somewhere. It's an interesting effect. Okay, that's basically what it does. Now, what is next? Edge split. Ah no, declimate. Declimate? Oh, not declimate, I'm sorry. I didn't read it correctly. Decimate. Decimate. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Decimate, it's needed on a heavy geometry. For example, if let's subdivide our monkey and make it really heavy and apply the geometry. Now we have very heavy geometry piece with a lot of polygons, and we need to optimize scene, and right now it's a 31,000 faces and 63,000 triangles just on the one geometry piece. And by using this decimate modifier, we can optimize it. We can type just 0.1, and now there are 5,000 faces and 3,000 or 6,300 triangles. So if we turn off the wireframe, we have relatively good looking head with a geometry which is not that heavy. And the cool thing about it, it's only visible with the wireframe shown. It's a symmetry. Yeah. Now it's symmetrical, because without it, by default, it's asymmetrical, and it's no good when you're trying to optimize geometry. Symmetry. You can optimize some heavy geometry correctly, more beautiful way, I would say. Okay. Next modifier is the edge split. Edge split, we don't see a difference on the edge split, but edge split modifier, it works only with the shade smooth on. Like now I delete it. With a shade smooth, geometry look like this, and with a shade flat, it's all with cubes and everything. And now if we use edge split modifier, it's automatically add hard sharp edges on angles which are higher than 30 degree by default, and it could be useful on some objects. Maybe better example would be cube. Let me show you this cube without shading smooth we add another cube and put shade smooth, and you see how it looks like. And now if we add edge split, it's automatically make edges sharp, because all angles are 90 degree. And if we bevel this angle on this part and add couple edges and move it, create soft edge. But if we move this edge to a bigger how to say if this angle is more than 30 degree, it's automatically make a sharp edge on this geometry. It's basically cutting it to the pieces, and it's gonna be visible if you actually apply this geometry or this modifier to this cube geometry. If we applied it and if we try edit it, look what it does. It's split this piece to this. You can actually kind of crack open it after if you apply this split modifier. So that's what it does basically. Okay, what is next? Mask. To be totally honest, I have no idea what it does. It's just disappear. When you turn on animation, nothing happens, and I have no idea what it does. I gotta Google it. Okay. Next modifier is a mirror, and I think it's better to use again the Suzanne. Okay, Suzanne. And if we add modifier now, we won't see a difference. But if we select edit mode and move on the side, you see geometry is being mirrored by from its origin by axis. It's good to model, mirrored objects. You can model just half of it, and other is automatically being modeled on the other side. Not only other side, you can also turn on this, and you basically have you can model just 1/8 of the object. It could be used on modeling it, for example, just very quickly, just to show you. It's cool to, it's easy to make with this modifier, mirror modifier. There's some ornaments and similar patterns, maybe. Look, I'm editing only one side, one area, and automatically, symmetrically is being modeled on the other side. You got an idea how to use it, I think. I use it constantly. It's the most used modifier, I think. Okay. What is next? Multi-resolution. This, I think, again, probably better use Sudan. It's basically like subdivision surface modifier, I think. I don't even see much difference. You just click subdivide and make it smooth. But you can return back. And right now I don't have much knowledge about it, but I just use instead of multi-resolution, I just use subdivision, and that's it. When I edit it, I edit low resolution model, but on the surface it's smooth high resolution model. So subdivision for me works well, but it probably have to have some purpose. I think I gotta Google it. Remesh, it's another one which I have no idea what it does. Actually, it's just screw up the model, make it really weird. Okay, I remember. You can, with the remesh modifier, you can make what's they call it? I forgot the name. You can make it look like a that's weird. That is weird. Like a Minecraft game. I don't really know the purpose of it. I haven't seen anybody using it, so know that this modifier is not being used by that much. Screw modifier. Personally, I use it a lot. Actual screw modifier. What it does, it's creating copy, but it cannot be used on how to say correctly, on three-dimensional objects, or maybe cannot be used properly. I use screw modifier to get something wrong with there was some issue with my computer. It's stuck for a little bit. I use screw modifier on the 2D objects to create 3D objects. Just in a second I'm going to show you what I mean. Just create plane and duplicate edge, and we have a geometry piece with a one edge. It's not going to be even visible on renders. So if I use screw modifier, what it does, it's kinda how to explain it correctly. I can only show you by example. It's a good tool to model wheels and all sorts of cylindrical objects. Not only cylindrical objects, it's actually, I think originally it was made to create a spring Even on a picture of on the icon right here, it looks like a spring. So if you add this, I think, yeah, it's creating spring-like object. And if you add iterations, I think, yeah, it creates a real spring. And it could be edited just by these 6 edges. Is that what it does with screw modifier? Okay. Then next, skin. I also have no idea what it does. Oh, wow. That's interesting. I haven't seen it. Cool. Yeah, that actually can be used somewhere, I think. It's a create squared structure like geometry just around this very simple geometry. That's interesting. I actually never seen anything like it. I never used even this skin modifier. Huh. That was fun. Yeah, that's what it does. By editing very simple object, you can have structure like things, geometry. Wow, this is actually cool. I gotta use it more often, I think. Okay. That's what it does, skin modifier. What is next? That's, by the way, that's the way I'm learning stuff. Just trying everything, push all the buttons and see what's happening. I don't have time to read, and even rarely I use search and YouTube. And YouTube is very helpful, by the way. Just if you don't know, for example, rigging right now, I'm learning from very useful rigging, what's it, RC Buggy, something like that, rigging tutorial. The guy is real professional, but I'm struggling with it though. Okay, next modifier is solidify modifier. It's actually very useful too. I use it a lot. We don't see any difference right now what it does, but if we delete some side polygons, we see, so, and it's too thin now, we have to increase thickness of it. Let's make it 10 centimeters thickness, and you see it's kind of creating a shell object. And if you use very simple cube geometry, but you got out of it, just let's make it slightly more complex. Well, there are a lot of shell-like structures you have to model. Almost everything have covers like that, especially if it's a technical modeling. And real geometry looks like this, like a paper thin. piece of geometry. And thickness it had on all polygons, the thickness, but again you have to be careful. Let me show you what I mean. I think I have to again turn on the wireframe. Right now it doesn't have all uniform thickness throughout geometry. I hope I'm saying that correctly. If you can see, maybe you can tell this thickness and this, there is a difference. Maybe if we do something like this, maybe it will be more visible and noticeable. Yeah, here you can see clearly the angle, and it's easy to fix by checking this box, even thickness, and you see the difference now. And I always click, I always check this box, because even thickness it creates more correct geometry. And also modifier, after solidify modifier you can use the on top of it bevel modifier to look geometry more complex and nicer. Let's reduce the thickness, the size of the bevel to 5 millimeters maybe. Maybe it is too small. Let's make it to 1 centimeter. Okay. And especially if we make shade smooth and maybe add just one subdivision surface. Oh, we have first issues. It is because this polygon is a one whole piece. If we join and add just a couple edges here, it fixes it. Now we have very complex, sophisticated geometry. It's basically out of this thin piece, paper thin piece. If we turn on all our modifiers, here it's maybe not that visible. We have to apply some material to it. Very cool piece with this nice smooth edges. And you can add, you can make the geometry more sophisticated. Something like this. Of course you're gonna need a little fixing. It's gonna get intuitive if you have a little skills in modeling. You just have to model a lot to understand how it works in order to fix issues with it. But solidify modifier is one of my most used modifiers all the time. If you're watching my videos on my channel, you can tell. As a modifier I use a lot. Okay. Next modifier. Well, subdivision surface is just make geometry subdivide geometry. I'm afraid I'm not saying that correctly. And you can model it, make it sophisticated just by adding edges. It's also one of the most used modifiers. Almost all people I see on internet, they use it. Subdivision, surface modifier. Okay, what is next? Triangulate. Here it's not visible, we have to turn on wireframe. But it's just triangulate faces. Probably it's more visible on the Suzanne. If we use triangulate, I think it's needed for video games or something, because in video games geometry all triangulated. You cannot use polygons, I think. I'm not sure though. Next modifier. Wireframe. Wow, this is also really cool modifier. Just by using this modifier you can have structure like geometry. Yeah, and you can change thickness. Cool. Okay, next. Weld. This one almost invisible, but I think it's useful, especially for me. I think it could be very useful thing. It's automatically welding vertices, which are like sometimes when you're modeling you have geometry like this, geometry pieces, especially I'm using knife tool like this a lot, and some of the polygons, some of the geometry pieces could stay like this. It looks okay, but if you on the real close-up, you can have several vertices just right next to each other. And right now it's did welded because the distance from points, it's just 1 millimeter, 0.001 meter means 1 millimeter. And if we increase it to 5, no, it didn't weld it. Maybe we should could be that. Oh, okay, you see, now it's automatically welded all these 3 vertices to 1. If we turn it off, it's wrong geometry. To make it more visible, maybe. No, it didn't help. The wireframe. I'm just trying to show you this thing, and the vertices has to be visible too. These three vertices looks like this right now, and it's a wrong. Say it's not clean geometry and undesirable thing, because if you apply a subdivision surface to it, it's gonna mess up whole geometry right here. You see how it's now, because it's barely visible. But if we have weld and turn on, it's automatically fixing it. But the distance between points has to be really small. If a distance higher than right now 5 centimeters, it's not gonna help. You see, only on relatively close distances it's actually working. Okay, it is almost 1 hour long tutorial. What should I tell about the modifier? These ones I don't use a lot. I use only curve, which I showed in the beginning of the video, and I don't really even know what they do. I use a lot, not a lot. Sometimes I use only lattice modifier, and I'm going to show you what it does. For lattice, you have to add actual lattice. Lattice, it's just a grid cube. You can increase points, and what it does, if you select this lattice, when you edit, look how you can modify your geometry. How can you edit geometry? It's a very useful thing too, well, personally for me, when I need to change it quickly, change proportions. Well, that was basically all I know about modifiers. All other modifiers I don't really use, and don't really know how or what they do. If there is a demand, I started this video because of the comment. A guy in a comment, he asked me to make a tutorial about modifiers, so I did it. If you like it, like it. If you don't like it, you can always leave a mean comment on the comment section below. It's okay too. So till next time, bye bye.